This meeting of the Eastham Board of Library Trustees will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 18 and through the town website at www.easthamma.gov. I'd just like to take a quick moment to welcome Robin Rowe here this morning at our meeting, and we will proceed. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of March 18th as printed in the packet with edits, if any.
I make a motion that the minutes of March 18th, 2025 be approved.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Sarah, so that's Mary and Sarah. I'll go around for those in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Joanna? Mary?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, and Willow, 5-0.
Yes.
Have you ever voted against one of your minutes?
Not yet, but I might.
Next up would be a motion for the approval of the minutes of March 21st as printed in the packet with edits, if any. I have a motion.
I make a motion that the minutes of March 21st, 2025 be, excuse me, be approved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, Joanna. Okay, Joanna,
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Wait, I have discussion. The minutes that got put in the package were not the final minutes. And there's one edit that needs to be made because the minutes in the packet say that it was the Eastham room. And in fact, we were meeting in the Turner room, but I don't think my final minutes got in the packet. So I'd like to edit the minutes in the packet to read that the meeting took place in the Turner room. And with that edit, I say yes.
Okay, so we're approving them with edits, and so that edit is included. So
Yep.
again, all those in favor, Joanna?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Willow?
Aye.
Myself, aye, 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we have one member of the public with us.
We
Did you
actually
have anything
have,
you would like to say?
two other members of the public
Who?
who have joined us.
Who we have?
So we have
Caitlin
Caitlin
Grayson
Grayson and Jessica Brown. it
Brown.
looks like.
Okay, I didn't look at the screen. I didn't see them.
I need to know who is, and they're on Zoom.
Yes,
Okay, can I have your names or, I have them on my screen. Do I put them in the minutes? I do, right?
yeah, because they're
Yes.
as attending, yes.
Okay, got it. I got them on my screen. Hi,
Oh.
Caitlin, and hi, Jessica.
Hi.
And if you had any comments that you would like to share, this would be the time for the public comments.
I am just observing. I am a library grad student.
Okay, welcome.
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 Thank you.
Yeah, myself
Okay.
as well. It's like an assignment that we have to see a board meeting. So
Cool.
thank you for
Well, you see,
allowing us to be here.
you'll find out what exciting things you have to look forward to.
Are you an Eastham resident? Caitlin?
This is Caitlin. I'm actually in Virginia. I'm in Rocky
Oh.
Mount, Virginia.
Okay,
You guys just happen to have a very convenient meeting to attend.
okay, well, we're it then. Okay, welcome.
Yeah, I live in Philadelphia.
Neat.
All righty.
Well, thanks for joining us.
I think next we're up to Olivia, our student ambassador.
Yeah, so something that I've been sort of like working at continuously throughout the year is I talked about it at the beginning of the year, sort of like what has been new at the high school since the construction. And so like I have it all together. Like some of the cool things I've gotten on there is the new biotech equipment. In one of my teachers' room, like she has this really cool freezer that goes to -40. So like I've gotten pictures of all that stuff and I'm working on putting it all together in some sort of like doc or like Google site or something. So is that something that you guys would want like on the website for people to view? Or like once I make it into one doc?
I think that there would definitely be some way we could,
Yeah.
I would be really interested to know what resources the high school has. I feel like there are a lot of people who, they don't have active students there, so they'd be really interested to know what resources you guys
Yeah.
have. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is especially as we talked about previously with the high school, we could sort of be a vehicle to get word about what's happening at the high school
Yeah.
out through our website. And I think there are people in the community
Yeah.
who would really be interested in that.
Yeah, and even if I made it sort of like a Google site instead of just like a document, because
Mhm.
those are pretty easy to edit, it could be something that the next ambassador, if they chose to, could, like, I could transfer the ownership to them and they could like edit it and stuff too,
Sure.
if they wanted to.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Sounds
That's
good.
kind of exciting that maybe there would be a extended presence of the ambassador on the website if there's a niche, you know,
Yeah.
for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have, or we should be developing more, like a young adult page on the website. We
Mm.
have kind of a youth services area, but we want to have more resources, you know, to kind of
Mhm.
connect what's going on for, you know, young people,
Mhm.
education wise in the community too.
Yeah.
So that could be great.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Sarah, we have, you sent out the statements from the three
Mhm.
student ambassadors who expressed an interest in serving on the board. Uh,
Let me just give some context to it. So
Okay.
after our February meeting, I sent out an email to 4 students that Olivia had recommended, and I heard back from one, so that's the first one who responded to me on March 9th. And then I reached out again towards the end of March to the remaining 3 who I had not heard back from to just say, you know, if you're interested, let me know because we're gonna discuss it in April. So then 2 more reached out to me.
Okay.
And that's what you see, student 2 and 3, so that you
Okay.
can,
So,
the,
so student number 1 or A
yes.
is,
they're arranged by.
oh,
date,
I'm looking
so
at the wrong, I'm looking at the wrong thing, sorry.
Yeah, and the reason I did reach out again was just, as we had discussed sometimes with the school emails, they're not always looking at it, and because Melanie had brought up the idea of also having more than one student ambassador, so just.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I just wanted to give that context of the,
Yeah, I think looking at them, from my perspective, I'm glad that we have 3 students who are interested in serving as student ambassador. The student who responded on March 9th had a very detailed and in my view, an enthusiastic, response. The second student also provided quite a bit of information and is currently the president of their freshman class.
Mhm.
In the past, we've always had a senior. And so I have mixed feelings about a freshman taking on the role. The person would be a sophomore when they actually took it over.
Mhm.
And the third candidate sort of indicated an interest, didn't provide a lot of
No,
detail.
right,
So my leaning right now is mostly towards the first student. With the possibility when we notify, the students who selected, if that first student is in fact selected, possibly making the suggestion that they cooperate somewhat with the second student who will be a sophomore and possibly groom that student for, the position down the road. So I've said my piece, where my preference is, and so I'd sort of like to hear from the other board members.
Go ahead.
Mary?
I'd like to get Olivia's thoughts on a senior versus a freshman or a sophomore, a two together versus one by themselves. I just like, having been one for a while, I'd just like to get your thoughts on what you feel is a good
Yeah,
decision.
so I definitely think more as a senior, I'm like am more prepared for
Mm.
this. But I do know, like the girl you said, if she's like the president of her class, like I definitely was not as involved my younger years, so she, and it was also COVID, so. But so she might also be more up to date and like better at getting everything organized. I think it could be a good idea to have two, and then so like to take the burden off the younger one for now, just to like see how it is, and then come into it when she's older, with more experience or more like ready ideas, you know?
And then
yeah.
it might be possible that then if, let's say she sort of worked with
Mhm.
the student ambassador for the year. And if she's still at that time felt, yeah, I'm really interested and this is a junior,
Mhm.
then I would feel,
Mhm.
much more,
Mhm.
much more comfortable.
I
So-
think that when you're involved with something for a while, it's advantageous to be involved the next year or the next year, because
Right.
you've had the chance to learn, figure out what works, what doesn't work, what your need, what the library's needs are, and to use Olivia for, you've been terrific, but for 1 year, what you've learned isn't going to be passed on to
Mhm.
anybody.
There's no continuity.
There's
Yeah,
no
it would be
continuity, and
nice.
I think,
Yeah.
you, continuity is a plus.
Yeah. So,
Just to confirm, Olivia, because I didn't ask them what grade they were in.
That was my
So is
question.
Solana going to be a senior?
She's either gonna be a junior or a senior.
Okay.
I don't know her personally, but I like she was in student council, so I was able to find her through that
Because
way.
that first one we're talking about, I'm not sure is a
Yeah,
senior.
that was my question. It might be helpful to know that if
Mhm.
we're
Oh,
thinking
you have
of
her
two.
email address?
Yes,
Do
it
you- What's the
says
number?
28.
28, so that means, oh, so she might also be a sophomore. Or, wait, I'm graduating 25.
Yeah.
Wait, so she might be a freshman.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so they both are,
Wow.
okay.
okay.
So are you saying student number one could be a freshman? Is that what you're
Yes.
just
Oh,
saying?
okay, yeah,
Yes.
I guess I assumed that
I
student
thought
number
you-
one was a senior.
That's what I was thinking.
That, yeah,
Maybe
I,
that's why I don't know her, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, if it's 28, she.
Let me ask this question at this
Follow me.
point. Do we possibly, do we want to get some more information? Or do we, I don't know that there's anything sacrosanct about making
Yeah.
this decision today. So if we wanted to get more information, because my whole opening statement was the idea of, being a senior.
Senior and a freshman.
And,
You know, kids, I think high school kids are very used to working in teams. A lot of it is in teams and they're very comfortable in teams. And I don't think there's anything that says we couldn't have a pair share the position and they'd work out with each other how they, how they'd fulfill the responsibilities. It might be even better with a small team.
Yeah,
interesting.
I will say also, like, when I was like younger, a few years ago, I was like less confident to go and do things like ask teachers for and like connections with this, so maybe having two of them, they'd feel more
Go
comfortable
together.
to like go after things, you know?
yeah, so I'm sorry, they all are, so of the four, now that I know how to decode the email address, 3 of them graduate in 2028. The one that graduates in 2027 never responded to me.
oh, okay.
Okay, so then they're all at this point underclassmen.
Mhm.
None of them are
Good. Good
seniors.
for them.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm blown away with their short paragraphs, I think, and their activities and commitment to different, different roles. So I think having 2 young
Okay,
people,
I would
Should
be
try
okay
it.
with that.
I agree with it. I agree with Joanna.
Yeah, I agree with Joanna and Willow, how are you feeling? We don't formally vote on this, I
I
don't
don't
think.
think we need
Yeah,
to.
how are you feeling about it? This will be consensus.
It's my idea. I love it.
Okay, too. And Sarah, are you feeling okay with going back to the candidates and saying we'd like to experiment with the idea of having a shared role and
Mhm.
seeing how they feel about it? And if they both feel positively about it, that's what we'll have. And if not, then, cross that bridge when we get to it.
I think, yeah, I think I'll just say that this is it's gonna be a share, you know. You and your classmate will both be student
I think that's
ambassadors.
how you should present it.
Yeah,
Do we want to invite them in, you know, and just in case if they learn more, one of them might not want to, or just so they have an opportunity to learn more about it.
Yeah.
Invite them to either Zoom in or just so that we know that they're committed.
We
Not
can do
that they
that.
have to, not
Sure,
that they
we
have
can-
to
we can
come,
do that.
but just that well, maybe we do make a decision today of the two, both of the two, and then we just invite them to come in.
Yeah.
If they'd like to, but they.
Yeah, and ask them to work it out as to if they want it to be a shared responsibility, we're fine with that. And
like
if,
one of them asked like, oh, do I have to come into this meeting? And I was like, no, you don't have to, but it's an open meeting, you can always come in.
You know, just to, you know, say that this is a shared, you know, we've decided to have it a shared. And if they'd like to come in the next couple of meetings to learn more about it. I don't wanna pressure them to come in, but.
okay, so I think the consensus is you could reach out to them, tell them that we'd like to have both of them
Yeah.
consider being a student ambassador in a shared role and encourage them to, you know, join the meeting either in person or via Zoom and see how they react to that, see how they feel about that.
And when would their first official meeting that we'd like them to start? be?
Officially, things start at the election is in May.
May 5th.
Yeah, and then the positions are filled like immediately after the election, if it's
Yeah.
early enough in the month, and I
Right.
think this year it will be.
Right,
So
I
would be
thought the
June,
election was May 20th.
I'm sorry?
well, what I did last year, I invited them to come after
yeah,
the election, but knowing that their summer, you
yeah,
know, we'd like them really to start in earnest in the fall.
yeah, that's when they
September
actually
is-
did start, was in the fall.
Okay.
the Student ambassador. I think the elected
Yeah,
trustees start after.
No, yeah, I would say to the student ambassadors, you know, we would love for you to attend any meeting starting at our next meeting in May through the summer. But your official duties will start in the September meeting.
Yeah,
I'll say
at the
something like
beginning of
that.
the school year, make it a
Yeah.
school year
Yeah.
type thing. for
Just,
them.
it can be hard with like work schedules and everything.
Yeah.
over the
Yeah, they
summer,
work in
Yeah.
the summer,
usually.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
set.
true.
Yeah.
So are do we clear on the consensus, Sarah?
Mhm.
You'll reach out to
Mhm.
the March 9th and the March 31st students.
Mhm.
And let them know that we'd like them to fulfill the role as in a shared capacity
Yeah,
and see how they feel about that.
and then the third student, I'll say thank you for expressing interest.
So I'm just
and
gonna say,
if
we,
you-
we need to speak to the third person.
If
Yeah.
you're, you know, interested in it again next year, I'll.
Yeah,
Keep
just let
reaching
us
out
know. Okay,
And thank the person for sending in their comments, yeah, to be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay, I think.
Thank
we're-
you, Olivia,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
getting those names.
Melanie, do we have a report from Debbie? I think she's in London, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yes, she sent something to me and Willow,
Yes.
and did you get that, Willow?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I will send that to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh. Oh. She knows, hold on. Okay. Right, Friends of the Library report for the trustees meeting on April 8th, 2025. Our annual meeting will be Saturday, June 7th at 2 p.m. Marka Daly, the curator and archivist at the Schoolhouse Museum, will offer her Turnip Talk program. Since we're the sponsors of the Turnip Festival, we thought it would be fun and appropriate. She has a great program with photos from the old days and a whole history of agriculture in Eastham. It's quite fascinating. We'll have our first Windmill Weekend Parade planning meeting at 3:30 p.m. on May 1st, just before the Friends meeting at 4 p.m. The parade is September 7th, and the theme is Out of This World, which actually I suggested last year.
yes, you did. And I put it through, I mean,
Thank you so
we voted,
much.
yeah.
All are welcome to attend that meeting. We'll need a lot of help. And the annual book sale is Saturday and Sunday, June 21st and 22nd. Thanks, Debbie Abbott.
Okay,
All right, Willow, I'm sending that to you right now. Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. Thanks.
Welcome.
and I would imagine that if there are any questions for Debbie, we can let her enjoy her time in London
Yeah.
and just ask them when she gets back at the next meeting. Okay, we're up to the director's report, Melanie, so you're on.
Okay. Corey had an event this evening, so he was unable to make this meeting in person. We had switched some things around, but he is available for our May 20th meeting, so he'll give a little presentation and staff visit then. In the meantime, he gave me a little written update that I've included in my report. Did anyone have any questions about anything that Corey had mentioned there before I go on to
No.
the other things?
No, it's actually a very detailed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, he's doing a lot of different things. Trying to really expand his program offerings, and yeah, he'll give you a little more detail and you'll be able to ask some questions May 20th from him.
okay.
In the agenda planning, it was just going to be this written report, and I expressed to Melanie that as a trustee, one of the things I most enjoy is when the staff come to the meeting and we're able to interact with them. So
I agree.
I said, if you can do it at another meeting, that'd be great, because I wouldn't want to miss our annual
Mhm.
In your
visit
report
with
time.
one of the
Yeah.
staff members.
Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
suggestion. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
I did have a question. It's actually on the last item under Corey's. It's environmental library work with Blue Marble Librarians. I have no idea who that is or who they are.
It's a community library group, and what they do is try and have some collaborative initiatives across libraries to promote sustainability, to do environmental education. The group is shrinking and not doing as much as they have been in the past, so it's really just kind of a couple of folks. But Corey can tell you a little bit more about his work with
Okay.
that, yeah, in May. Okay. Programs and services, just a reminder that we're going to be closed on Monday, April 21st, and on our Patriots Day. Couple of other program updates that we have the Eastham Wellness Fest that's happening at the COA Friday, May 9th, and Al and Marianne are going to be representing the library and expressing some of the assistive device and other services that we offer there. So thanks, Al, for doing that. We have a new series of afternoon concerts coordinated by Karen. That'll be Saturday afternoons in April and May. So we're really looking forward to that. The Welcome Back commemorative piano concert is going to be Saturday, May 3rd. And we decided that a better time to display the pictures accompanying the piano work would be June, I think, or July, Willow?
Let me find
Sorry,
it.
if you have it handy, that's
It
okay.
is the library stuff. It's gonna be July.
Yeah, so that'll be really exciting. Leah has a developed teen advisory group and a teen volunteer cohort, and they come Tuesday afternoons. You may have seen
I
some of
just-
them, yeah, helping her run around. So yeah, that group is growing and they're really excited to be involved, and they are a huge help to her. So we're really excited to have that program kind of off into the races. And other news for collaborations with the youth, we just finished up our display with the middle school projects on how the body heals. We had that in the Turner Room for the month of March. And I was just at the middle school this morning scoping out some really awesome ecosystem posters and dioramas. So we have a lot of in the round projects that we're looking to display in the lobby and on the ledge by the stairwell for the month of May. It has a lot of 3D information on a variety of different ecosystems that you would see around the world, and some feature kind of local ecosystems as well. So they're really creative and really interesting with a lot of really cool information. And the science teacher that I'm coordinating with, she really puts a high standard for accuracy. That's how she kind of selects these projects, because there are a lot that are really creative and, interesting, but she's like, we want to make sure that all the ones that go to the library are very accurate, so that we're presenting, not accidentally spreading misinformation about things. So I thought that was a cool kind of, reward for students who met that sort of caliber in their work. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's great that the school projects are being displayed here.
Mhm,
Because typically, you know, what happens, and I know I've been involved with science fairs for years. Typically, it's in the school.
mhm.
It's, the kids get to see it, the staff sees it, of course, the parents of the children will come and see it. But it's not
Not the
really,
general public.
yeah, the general public doesn't really
Right, right.
see it or even know about it for the most part.
Mhm.
So by it being here, people are gonna just, you know, they walk through and they're gonna see it, and they're gonna stop and they're gonna look at it.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really excited to expand our opportunities. There's of course a natural connection with the high school since that's in town, but if the middle school's a town over, it's nice to have more opportunities to connect with them there,
Mhm.
so. Just a note, we wanted to thank Barbara for running the Tuesday movie matinees. People were really receptive to that. Those are the kinds of programs that it's, you know, not necessarily about how many people come to one, but about the consistent offering for people who are looking for things to do Tuesday afternoons. So people were really appreciative of that. We actually had some specific comments on how grateful they were in the survey that we put out. But we're doing a summer hiatus for that to make room for some afternoon kids programs and things like that with the summer reading program. Strategic planning update. The survey closed on April 2nd, and this report that I have is actually inaccurate. We had 2 more physical survey responses that I didn't get to put in by the time I put this out. So we have 355 responses
You
that
hit
we
your
got to the
goal.
survey. Yeah, I hit my goal, over 300 responses. So as far as the survey goes, I need to take some time and really look into the data there. I will share that with the board, but I do think that you're gonna hope, I don't know, probably want it to be a little bit more streamlined. It's, I don't know, a little bit overwhelming. I'd be happy to share the raw data with you, but I think having a little bit more of a presentation style would be a little bit easier to kind of glean the highlights.
Mhm.
So that's my plan, to give you that information.
What do you have to do with the physical ones? Are you like inputting it into a
I
system?
had made
manually?
the decision early on in the survey process that I was gonna be gathering them and inputting them like as we went,
Mhm.
which I'm really grateful for, because it's not like a long survey, but it just gets to be, you know, cumbersome when
Yeah.
you're doing a whole bunch at once. So by the time the survey closed, I just had like 20 to put in, which was
Oh my
like
God.
so much easier than
Right,
putting in
good idea.
150, yeah.
Interesting.
So that worked well.
And so
uh,
like almost half were the physical ones.
Maybe a little less than half.
Okay.
Most of the responses
Sorry.
were already online, but we did get, I have the stacks of the
Yeah.
physical one, and we did get a good amount of the physical
That's
ones.
interesting.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Mary, thank you for your help pushing it. at
I
those
have no idea how
programs.
many.
It made a difference. When I grabbed the bucket the following week, it was,
Oh,
yeah, there
good.
were a good number in there. So thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah,
that final push there. I was really pleased with how the visioning workshop and the SOAR exercises went with both the board and the staff on the 21st. I hope you all were really, you know, that you valued the opportunity and that you thought it went well. I think Michelle's a really fantastic consultant, and the staff really appreciated the opportunity to be so heavily involved, and they like that kind of, I don't know, opportunity to just sort of chat.
Give
Yeah,
their
yeah,
ideas.
just give
Yeah.
feedback, and, you know, there's a little bit of movement. We had more of a comprehensive exercise with the staff, and we were actually getting up and putting Post-its and gathering and doing different, addressing sort of themes in our responses, and that was a lot of fun for them. So we're really grateful that we had that experience. I did get the reports back from Michelle. And I can share that information with you if you want, but you kind of also saw the information that was there from your own responses. And again, I think we want to kind of look at this information a little bit in aggregate with the other data sources that we have. So, you know, I'd be happy to share the raw information with you, but my plan is to put all this together in kind of a package format where I present to you sort of a little bit of my findings for the survey response data, the SOAR response data. We have some other community demographics information that we've gathered, and the community leader interview kind of.
Yeah, we haven't seen
summary
any of the
themes.
results of your discussion with the various, what, have 12 or 20,
Yes,
12?
I conducted 12 interviews.
Right.
Those full interviews, a lot of them were recorded. I did promise that I would not be sharing the raw like
Mhm.
footage
Yeah,
of
that's-
those
yeah.
interviews. Yeah. Just so that people felt like they could really just
Mm.
be open with me.
Mhm.
But highlights from their responses, I'll also be putting into my sort of preliminary report to you
Mhm.
guys so that you can see that.
Yeah.
I think it might be worth, we don't have to schedule this now, but it might be worth scheduling a separate meeting,
Yeah,
or maybe I
workshop.
can like put together a video that you can all watch in your
Mhm. A
leisure and maybe
workshop,
we
maybe.
can, yeah, I'm kind of trying to think of different ways that it might work. One thought that I had that might be valuable would be, once I present to you the information, having opportunities to either have like one-on-one sessions or like small group sessions so that not that there's a problem with it being a public meeting, but just coordinating everyone's schedules for an additional public meeting can be challenging. So if we wanted to do like, I don't know, Joanna and Al and I have a conversation, and Sarah and Mary and I have a conversation, then Willow and I have one. We can talk about the data that way. So I'll kind of put together some ideas about how we want to do that, and then you guys can tell me how you want to move forward with that, if that makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, so you're gonna coordinate
Yep.
the next step,
Yeah,
and we're not putting it on next month's agenda.
no,
So
no,
that's, okay, just wanted to be clear for what I need to
thank you.
carry over.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on any of those pieces or?
No, wait
anything
for your
to add?
report
No.
and
Okay.
go from there.
All right, the Creative Place update for the back area of the library. I had a few meetings since we last met. I gave a brief presentation to the Conservation Commission that was informational to get, some buy-in from them and to involve them in the process, but the project was deemed to be of minimal impact, so I had already gotten preliminary administrative approval from the conservation agent for the town. They're really excited about the prospect of the project. They really like the idea of the mud kitchen. They're really like, if I had that when I was a kid, that would have been so cool. And then I had a meeting last week on the 2nd with the library gardening volunteers, Sheila Gary, Beth Trahan, and Francis Lewis, just to talk about, again, what kind of the impact would be back there, get some advice from them about maintenance, even though this is deemed to be a low maintenance project. We got some suggestions from them about placement for some of the pieces to ensure that DPW could mow around it very easily, which would help ensure that, long-term maintenance was done for the area. So yeah, good suggestions from them, and they're really excited about the project too. After a conversation with them, I'm rethinking a little bit how I want to do the idea of a labyrinth. Looking from above, it's just not as obvious, the slope of the hill back there. And the initial labyrinth structure that I was thinking of, I think over time, it's gonna kind of erode, and I don't want us to have to continually repack the labyrinth to make sure that that stays the way that we want it. But I had an idea that I'm just filling you guys in on, that I'm gonna talk with Leah more about. She and I have been discussing ways, for developing this teen volunteer cohort. We want to kind of commemorate their contributions to the library over time, sort of thinking a la a nod to our wall of honor upstairs, a way to give a nod to contributions from youth. And I had this idea from something that I saw on a listserv of like customizing paving stones, like engraving paving stones. And I'm thinking, possibly, again, I have a lot more to think about this, but maybe if we had engraved paving stones from our volunteers, we could create maybe like more of a path labyrinth thing that we put set into the yard of the library so that it could be mowed over. But it would still be like an interesting visual path, but also a commemorative nod to the contributions of youth and other volunteers. So this idea is not really well fleshed out, but I just wanted to express that I'm
Thinking about it.
yeah, I'm thinking about how to kind of make that work for our long-term interest and purposes.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, when I met with Leah to discuss the 5th grade books, she discussed an assortment of other things with me, and that was one of the things that she discussed.
Yeah, some kind
As
of
far as some sort of wall of honor, well, I
Mhm.
thought she had some ideas, and I thought that might not work, and I came up with the wall of honor type of thing that we have upstairs
Yeah,
for the children. I shouldn't call you a child, for the young adults.
yeah, yeah,
That help out,
yeah.
so, yeah.
I think there are a lot of ideas. I'm, speaking from my own personal preference, I'm really excited about the idea of, I don't know, putting our youth mark on some of our outdoor spaces, creating some kind of ownership for them out there. So that's sort of why that tickles that, satisfaction in my brain a little bit. But there are a lot of ideas. So if you have other suggestions for, I would be happy to hear it or talk with Leah about it. Yeah. All right. Karen and I had some interviews for filling our open floater positions or the open hours that we need to fill with 1 or 2 floaters. going into the summer, and we ultimately decided to offer the position to 2 people. That's all kind of being finalized, so I don't want to make any formal announcements, but we had, some great interviews with some fantastic candidates. The applications were really great. It was nice to meet those people. It just, happened that certain folks floated to the top with their particular subset of experience. Yeah, so we're looking to get them trained in the spring and ready to go, helping us out in the summer.
Okay.
All right, that's all for me.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from Melanie?
I do. I have some concerns about the process of floaters.
Mhm.
Whenever we decide that going that route, there's advertising needs to be done. There's work by Lori Barr that needs to be done. There's interviews needs to be done with yourself and other people from the staff here, however that's worked out. There's, if somebody's hired, there's training to be done. All of that costs time, all of that costs money. We've done that with a number of people and they've left because they have found other jobs that were full-time perhaps, since the people we're hiring are part-time. If, I'm sure anybody that lives here that was interested in that would prefer a full-time job versus a part-time job.
Not necessarily. That's kind of how we tried to do better assessment this time around, making sure that the interest and expectation was for a part-time position that had only a threshold for limited growth. So that was something that we specifically talked about with all the candidates that we interviewed this time around, just to make sure that expectations were clear. We definitely have had wonderful floaters in the past, but more of an interest in developing a library background to kind of, go into other positions. So that doesn't mean that we're never going to have our floaters move on to other things. It's, definitely is the nature. Yeah, I think that we've been fortunate at the library to have very little turnover. If you look at like other town departments, it's, kind of atypical. Every year the beach and recreation department, they have, tons of seasonal workers and things like that. So yeah.
That's summer.
Yeah. And so I know we're not looking specifically for seasonal work, but because of, where we are, we get people who they change things season to season. And so it just happens that sometimes certain things work better. For instance, one person that left us wasn't necessarily for just a full-time position. She had like a whole location move. So, one reason or another. But this is, as we're working to expand library hours, this is the way that we can really ensure that we have the 6th day of the week open. Because it would take a lot more to create a larger position. And then, you're talking about, then that person has, benefits too, they have vacation. So there's just, other layers of coordination and things like that too.
I just want to make sure that we're spending our money wisely. And I'm just saying that when you go through the 6 or 8 floaters that we've had, that's a long trajectory and time and money. And I just want to make sure that we are, as I said, spending our money wisely, and whether we're spending it too much that way and not actually having a full-time position. I realize full-time positions are benefits and an assortment of other things. And I'm sure that lots of people are looking for full-time. I mean, most people, if they want to live here, they need to have a full-time position and benefits. So I'm just want to make sure that we're considering that whole aspect of hiring people.
Joanna?
I'm just curious with floaters, does it give you more flexibility for having, filling in gaps as opposed to having a new hire? Or does that not make a difference?
Yeah. So, the previous flow, the structure of the library, we had the core, 5 or 6, forget what it was at the time, full-time people, and then we had 2 regular part-time people. And as we, moved into the new building and worked to expand evening hours, you kind of spread out how those shifts are, how those hours are actually spread out when the library is open. And so yes, we started to have more of a need to have duplicative coverage, because if you have one person out, then you now have a hole, instead of, we had the 6 people here at the same 6 hours of the day. So if one person's not here, it's really easy for someone else to fill in. And then when we open a 6th day of the week, we create, we kind of extend that challenge a little bit further. Then, you have people, the full-time people aren't even all here the same days of the week. So if one person is out, it creates a little bit of so that's kind of why we need the floaters right now, and why, in a way, we are theoretically looking towards another full-time person, but we have to kind of consider what that would look like too. If we add another full-time person, what days of the week are they gonna work? How does that create consistency with the other people that they're working with, if they're not actually overlapping with staff that they're technically working with, because there's a shared space on opposite days of the week. So it's a little bit difficult. We're kind of comparing apples to oranges a little bit. And really where we are right now is we are, plugging in floaters to make sure that we can have 2 long days, 6 days of the week, well, almost like 5.5 days of the week, because Monday is a short day. But that's, we're kind of, I guess as you're describing, a little bit plug and play, but it's not, that kind of a thing wouldn't be solved by just adding another full-time person. Because again, we need at least 3 people to sort of staff the building at all times. So we're in this expanded hours situation where we do need part-time assistants to help sort of plug in some gaps. And we also need full-time consistent coverage throughout the week to make sure that we have consistency in services and offerings. I know that's kind of babbling a lot, but does that kind of make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
So with the 2 people that you were saying you're considering hiring, and you had 8, I think you had 8 floaters before, when you gave me a list, was it 6 or 8 floaters that we had? How many floaters do we end up with the additional 2 that you're talking about here?
So we have. Sorry.
No, I know, I asked you for a list of them, and you sent, I didn't bring it with me here, but.
We have 3 people who are doing regular floater hours, and then we have 2 people who are still just occasionally on the payroll because they're doing 1 program a month.
They were the ones that were here. It used to be floaters before, and now they're just part-time.
Well, they're still floaters. But
Right,
yeah,
right, but not as full a floater as they were before.
right.
Part-time floaters and full-time floaters. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I was looking to add 2 more people to make sure that we have, the consistency and flexibility for all the coverage that we need going into the summer.
So how many is that? How many, if you hire these 2 people, how many do we end up with total?
I don't remember off the top of my head, Mary, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're done with that. So we're into old business now, and we have the policy review. We have a couple of motions coming up here on pages 13 and 19 in the packet. There's the updated policies in the packet. In the first one, I think would be easier to get the motion on the floor, and then we could have discussion. Given that we have a motion, so we're gonna need a motion to approve the updated meeting room usage policy as printed in the packet. So may I have a motion to that approval? We have a motion, Joanna, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Sarah seconds. Then looking at the policy for the meeting room usage, if I'm understanding it correctly, Melanie, the only real changes there are towards the end in the Gregory S. Turner meeting room. There are a bunch of lines being eliminated, and then the insertion of a couple of new lines. And there was a formatting note. Those were the only changes that I see. As if that's correct.
That's
Yeah.
what I see too.
So we have a motion on the floor in the second.
Just let me give a
Discussion,
little
questions?
context, just
Yes.
to be clear. So the Turner Meeting Room, it does also double as an exhibit space for the library. So we're looking to maximize opportunities for the public to view the displays that go on in there. We also had a note in the meeting room policy. We do, of course, have that dividing wall in the Turner Meeting Room, but realistically, staff are not offering that as a service because it's really difficult. And really it takes multiple staff to kind of separate the rooms. So since we're not really offering that as a service, I figured it would make more sense to pull it out of the policy, to avoid confusion there. So, just wanted to be clear about why we're going for this change.
Have you ever, has anybody ever, reserved one of those, in smaller rooms?
We made it so that they can't do that, but we will get like occasional questions from the town, like, oh, I see that the Turner meeting room is booked this time, can you pull up the wall?
Mhm.
And I wanna be, consistent, we
Mhm.
can't do that, and not that I've really crazy hurt myself, but like I've kind of hurt myself trying to pull the wall thing out, and so it's not something that I would just ask any staff to do. I don't think that it's something that all staff are really capable of doing, just kind of how tricky it is.
Yeah,
And so it's not, easy to offer
Yeah,
regularly.
and my concern more so is, I think very early on with the division of the room, it, it's not as effective as we originally thought it was going to be when we planned the space. It was supposed to be so that you could have like two totally different activities
Yeah.
Right,
and they wouldn't interfere with each other. But that is not the case at all. I mean, if you have two activities going on where the volume is higher than a low
we
conversational
tried it a couple
volume,
of times and it
Yeah.
didn't work.
it
it's
doesn't
loud,
work.
very loud.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So I think it would be better to, in the policy, not offer it. And then, as with all the policies, at the discretion of the director, if a situation arises and a request is made, and our director, Melanie, feels this can be accommodated, fine, there's always that option. So I like the revision that's being proposed.
Yeah,
Additional
I'd just like to,
discussion?
I'd just
Yeah.
like to say that the wall, as Al has said, we tried it on several occasions and we would move the wall. And we had the two operations, two meetings or whatever you want to call them going on. And the wall itself is not good for noise. And we looked into doing something with the wall that would improve the noise issue. And there really wasn't anything that we could find that would do the work. And so if you've got something in the front, I'll call it the front and the south part of the room, and then something in the back and people are talking or there's things going, obviously most meetings there are people noise and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay,
Yeah.
if there's no additional discussion, so we're on the motion to approve the updated meeting room policy as printed in the packet. Let's go around. All those are Joanna?
Aye.
Aye, Mary?
Now I have some questions.
Oh, okay, I thought we finished the
No,
discussion.
no,
Okay,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah. Have we changed when you're talking about the small conference room? That is now where your office used to be.
Mhm.
Have you changed I didn't look to see if you've changed the plaques.
Oh, no, not yet.
Because we had people that gave money for the small conference room.
Oh, those plaques, I thought you
Yeah.
meant the signs.
Well, they're outside showing where, that the building is, I mean, that the room is, a
Mhm.
particular room.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, since people gave money for one particular, for both of them. I mean, people gave money for the small conference room and people gave money for the director's office. How, now we're making the director's office someplace else in the small I'm just
So-
wondering
So
how,
what you're talking about is moving the plaques.
Yeah.
So that they would actually identify the room.
yeah,
Well,
how is that
not
gonna work?
exactly, because if somebody donated money for what is now my office.
Right.
They didn't just now donate the money for the current small conference room.
Right,
So,
right.
we can just say, I'll get updated plaques that says this space was donated, instead of like the small conference room, I'll say this space, or something more generic there.
I'm just. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not sure how to do it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I think I think you're talking about along the lines of a supplemental plaque, sort of saying this is different than what it originally was.
No, I'm just gonna, order a new sign that instead of saying like the small conference room was donated by, I'm gonna say like this room was donated by.
Okay.
So it'll just be a little
So it'll
bit
be
more.
more generic.
Yep, yeah, yeah.
See the one over there, for this one?
Yeah.
So they all
I can't see it because
specifically,
of the light.
they all specifically say the room.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's a good solution.
Yeah.
Let me see, I had couple of other things. When you say a scheduled town employee will be in the building when the public is in attendance, who schedules that?
Me,
Do you make sure that that somebody's gonna be here? Is it always a library
no. it's-
employee? It
Sometimes
can't
it's-
be, right?
Well, sometimes it's the video services
Right,
coordinator,
right.
sometimes it's town administration.
So when somebody sets up a meeting and they've got to have a scheduled town employee to close out, I'm assuming it mainly to close down the building, right?
Well, after hours, meetings are only at my discretion anyway.
Mhm.
So
you would, but you won't, obviously, I'm not expecting you to be here for every time that
Right, but
we have
it
a
has
meeting
to, it has
after
to go
hours.
through me to coordinate, so
Yeah,
I would
right.
make sure that somebody
So
was
you
there.
would make sure that
Yeah.
somebody,
Yep, and if somebody wasn't available, then I wouldn't allow the meeting to
Mhm.
happen.
okay. And I had something else, Oh, access to the pantry must be requested separately. Is that part of the form that they fill out, that they've got to be in touch with the Board of Health for the pantry,
We
if they're
do,
going to use the pantry?
we do have information, indicating that on the website, yes.
That they've got to get a Board of Health approval for food.
Yes,
Mhm. Yeah, okay. Oh, I think that was. Oh, I had another question. Reservations must be made in advance. What, didn't we have a set time period for, it was 1 week, 2 weeks?
it was 2
Some-
months.
2 months, okay. 2 months, thank you.
That's how far out an individual
Mhm.
group.
Yeah,
can
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not more.
I knew
Yeah.
that we had set something up, but it's not in here, yeah.
It says under reservation procedures that meeting room requests may be made up to 2 months in advance using the online reservation system, and that requests should be made at least 1 week prior to the event.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm looking at this, page 2, reservations must be made in advance for audio visual. Is that still 2 months?
Just in advance.
Just in advance.
Just in advance.
Oh. Well, I think, shouldn't we, if we're gonna say 2 months, but shouldn't we have
At the
some?
time of the request, I would,
Yeah.
like someone to tell us what they
What
want for their
equipment
event.
they need.
So we don't want somebody reserving the Eastham room 2 months in advance and then coming in
At
on
the
the day of
last
their
minute and saying, I
reservation,
wanna
yeah.
use this or that.
Right,
Yeah.
but if they told me a week before the event, oh, actually, I need this, that's okay too.
Mhm.
So sometime in advance between the request and before the event, so in advance.
Okay,
And so sometimes the group making the reservation might not know when they make the reservation 2 months ahead of time what equipment they're
Right.
gonna need. So
Mhm.
if they're having a speaker,
oh, yeah,
oftentimes.
You don't know what
if I'm a
his needs
speaker
are,
someplace,
his or her
they'll
needs.
contact me and say, what are you gonna need? And that might not be, until a week or two before the event.
Mhm.
But you wouldn't want people, I think the idea here is you don't want people showing up the day of their
That's right.
reservation and saying, what do you mean you don't have,
Mhm.
Right.
This
equipment,
equipment,
Right.
this available or that available? And I think the policy states that they have to, let it be known what they're gonna need.
Yeah.
And if they, they don't have enough lead time for what they need. But next time they'll do better. Okay, I think we're ready to vote on the motion to approve the updated meeting room usage policy as printed in the packet. Joanna,
Aye.
Mary,
well, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at. I think there's still something in here about the Timothy Smith room. And it's. Oh, I'm sorry, this is more to do with there's no Timothy Smith room in the town hall anymore. Yeah, I know it's not, I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with the library.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the town's schedule of
yeah, I know, it's
fees.
the, it's a, it's
We
the
don't
town
control that.
policy and it's got problems from the
Yeah.
town's perspective too.
Yeah, because we don't control the schedule of fees that they
Right,
produce.
right.
So we're continuing with the vote then, Mary? you
Yeah,
said? Aye. Sarah?
Aye.
Willow?
Aye.
Myself, aye, 5-0. Thank you. The next motion is to approve the new library social media policy. And that is in the packet on page 19, I believe. Let me just get up there and see, yeah, there we go. And I looked through it, I don't have any particular questions or comments on it, so other discussion. Actually, why don't we get a motion on the floor? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the new library social media policy?
So moved.
Joanna, second?
I'll second it.
Sarah, okay, now that we've got a motion on the floor, we're open to discussion.
I guess this is a new policy,
this is a new policy.
just a brief, like,
Sure.
overview of why and.
Yeah, well, really, if you have a social media presence, it would be advisable to have a social media policy, and we do not have one. It's important for us to have just some kind of language in a policy about our use of social media, because social media platforms act as limited public forums for municipalities. So because we're a public entity, we have slightly different rules about how we should be monitoring and using social media as compared to nonprofit or private organizations. So I just kind of wanted to address how we use social media, the facets in which we use social media, and just sort of refer back to any policy that the town has regarding social media. And also link it back to our rules of behavior to just kind of protect us a little bit from the potential for comments to get unruly, as they just can on the internet.
Yeah, I like to tie into the rules of behavior policy for the
Yeah.
library, because that again, as we've discussed with other policies. If there's a policy in place that you as director can lean on, if a situation presents itself, you're on a much more firm footing if the policy is in
Yeah.
place and we're saying yes to this and no to this because our policy says, rather than being in the position of someone saying, well, you're just being arbitrary.
Yeah.
And, where does it say I can't do this?
Mhm.
So I like the fact that it's referencing the town's social media policy, and then again, the rules of behavior. And the fact that if this is gonna be on, our website, that both of those are links. So that someone looking at it can just click on it and see what the policy is.
I have a question. Has anybody seen it? Read
So,
it? Has anybody read the Eastham social media policy? I've never seen it. I've
This
never
is a
read
new
it.
policy.
I tried to click on
No,
it.
it says as per the town of Eastham social media
Oh,
policy.
I'm sorry. It's just a little appendix at the end of the personnel code on the town website.
Mm.
So it's not very public facing, and it really has more to do with personal use of social media as a representative of the town than it does about town social media accounts, which is kind of why I thought we should have our own, just,
Mhm.
sort of, protecting us a little bit.
So you've seen it. I mean, I haven't seen it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I asked about it because I figured if there was an existing town
Yeah,
social
yeah.
media policy to this effect, we would either build on it or
Mhm.
just, adopt
it.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
the town's policy on this is mostly related to personnel, and it's 60 pages long.
Oh.
So I think I would be more focused on what the library's policy is. And this way, if something popped, you know, someone was using profane language on the website. And, we had to say, or Melanie had to say, you can't do that, and if you do, this is the consequence. Why? Well, that's because it's the policy that was approved.
Yeah.
And if you feel that's unfair, then petition the board to change the policy. But again, where we're referencing the town, I think that probably covers us in a legal sense,
Mhm.
but
It helps
I-
protect any staff, anybody associated with the library from
Yeah.
like, or anyone in the public from, the potential of doxing or things like that on like a library account. So we would be obligated or able, by our policy to sort of protect people's private interests in that way, just again, because things can kind of get hairy with the limited public forum and comments and stuff. So it's just nice to have the language there to back us
I'm
up.
surprised that other town departments don't have a policy like this.
Other ones
do
do.
they?
I think it's a little bit less common as you get to the Cape. But I got some recommendations from the Mashpee Public Library.
I mean, other departments in.
In town here.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. That was
So you could
surprising. to
share
me.
this.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Yeah. Cause I'm sure it's relevant.
Sure. Yeah, I'll share it with Lori and she.
Yeah.
okay, do we have other discussion on the social media policy? Okay, so Ken, go on. Aye, Mary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
myself, I, Willow.
Yep.
Aye. Okay, 5-0. Okay. B under old business, just lists, people who've indicated an interest as a trustee candidate. We welcomed Robin at the beginning of the meeting. And, so, I'm assuming everybody at this point knows, they have to pull the papers and get signatures and get them turned in.
Everything's in. Awesome.
So we're good there. Anybody have any questions or comments on that?
No, I think that, I know Sarah and I have talked about candidates night,
Okay,
and that's something that if somebody's taken out papers and are interested, they should be attending that meeting.
When
Yeah.
is it?
He changed the date to Mary. I didn't send you.
They changed it again?
would it be the town clerk's office would send out invitations to the
No,
candidates?
it's not the town, it's the Chamber of Commerce and the dog
Okay,
owners.
but they would send out an invitation to the
It would be
candidates, so all the
Jim
candidates
Russo
will know.
probably
Yeah.
and Cindy
Yeah.
Nicholson.
But after our strategic planning meeting, I just emailed him directly since I'm gonna be away for spring break to make sure I wasn't gonna be away, which I'm not, but it's Monday, May 12th.
Right.
Okay, so that's-
Monday, May 12th,
Yes,
because you had given me another
I think
Another
he
date,
had written, he
earlier.
wrote me back and I just thought.
Do you have
I'm
a
gonna
time
go.
on that?
6 PM.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I'll tell you in person. Instead of sending another email.
And that's, I know, it's always been at the town hall, so I'm assuming.
Yes,
I'm assuming
hasn't
that's where
changed.
it'll be.
yes.
Okay. Okay, Mary, some comments on the 5th grade graduation book, and we also have a motion on that.
Mhm.
So would you like me to get the motion on the floor first and then discuss it, or did you have anything you wanted to share before we did the motion?
Well, I just want you to know that, when I spoke last time, Lee, when I looked on the book cover, the gentleman that, the author that wrote the book, lives out, in Chicago, but the book is about Cape Cod.
And
And so Leah and I said, we should get in touch with him to see why he was writing a book about Cape Cod when he's living out in Chicago. And, so she got in touch with him and, let me see, let me see, what is, no, this is the wrong thing. Sorry. Huh. Did I put it in here? I think I put it in here. Anyway, she did get in touch with him. And he wrote back. And I'm looking for, maybe I put it in here, excuse me. Got too many pieces of paper here. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is. This is from the author. thanks so much for this good news. She was telling him that we had selected the book for the fifth grade graduation. Thanks so much for the good news. I can't tell you how much it pleases me to think that folks on the Cape like the book. I lived in Dennis for a time and interned in their town government, not frequently heading out to Truro to climb those dunes. Before that, I spent a lot of time visiting my grandmother, who also lived in Dennis. And then in later years, I annually brought 30 students from my college on a January trip to Plymouth and to the Cape. Sometimes going all the way out to Provincetown, but usually going only to Sandwich, stopping at Titcomb's bookstore on 6A and then on to the beach in Sandwich. Those are all wonderful memories. I'm actually sitting in an airport in Grand Rapids right now, waiting for a plane to take me to Boston, where I'll meet my granddaughters who are flying in from Oregon, and then we'll head to Plymouth next week. So
Interesting.
it was interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's
So please send my greetings and congratulations to your fifth graders and thank you again.
Oh,
Very nice.
That's
So, yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Very
So I
nice.
thought that was nice.
The, is it? When the book is presented to the fifth graders, do they do it like at an assembly or something? Is there?
They've done it different ways, different years.
Yeah, because it
Um,
might be, just to capture a phrase or two
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
author, that the author has, extended his best wishes to you,
Maybe
that would-
Olivia remembers, she got the book in 2015.
Yeah, so that would be nice if it could be done.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so may I have a motion to expend up to $500 on the fifth grade graduation gift books and accompanying supplies? And the accompanying supplies would be, the wrapping and the card, the book card, etc.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, any other discussion?
No, I
I
just
didn't
want
get,
to,
I didn't get the second.
no,
Joanna.
Joanna.
Joanna,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I spoke to Melanie before the meeting and, because I'm not sure, and nor is she exactly the amount of the cost of the books. So we're using information from prior year to come up with the $500. So I'm just hoping that that's with the news, with the wrapping paper and the bookmarks and all the other stuff, that's enough, so.
Yeah, and if it's not, we can always do a supplemental motion. at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next
so I just
meeting. That
want
shouldn't
people
be
to
a
know
problem.
that,
Yeah,
that it's not on an actual cost of the book.
sure. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Joanna,
Aye.
aye, Sarah,
Hi.
Mary,
I,
Willow?
Aye.
Myself, aye, 5-0.
mm,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, yes. Yes. The first item under new business is the Wall of Honor nominations and the review of the candidate selection. There. Second. You're not allowed to go to sleep on that. Okay. We had three nominations, which have been labeled nominee A, B, and C. And what I'm thinking we might do, and this is really very fluid, is everybody has to, in order to even be considered for the discussion, they have to have the 4 points at the beginning. That's for the eligibility rating. That they served without compensation, was a resident of Eastham, was received by the first Saturday of April, etc. And then there's a section where each trustee could rate one of the nominees on a scale of 1 to 10, based on the statement of support, how you felt about that person. So what I would do at this point maybe is let's first go through each candidate and ask what your final score was. And if somebody could do me a favor and just sort of, there'll be 5 scores from the trustees and Melanie, and let's just go through and get the final score for each candidate and see what the numbers turn out to be. And that may well determine the discussion that we're gonna have. So we're on candidate A. Joanna, what was your number?
So the total, the best score being 15,
Yes,
right? 15,
okay,
The titles.
no, the best score being
nothing,
14.
14,
14.
sorry,
It's-
14.
Yeah,
it's,
14.
Okay, 14.
Okay, Willow, what was your score?
14.
Okay, Mary,
13.
okay,
14.
and mine was 14.
So are you going on to B?
Yeah, I was just giving Melanie a chance to do the arithmetic there. I think if there were 5 14s, it would be 70, and there was 1 13, so that would be 69. Yeah. I can do complex math. Okay, candidate B, Joanna,
You have to start with me all the time.
Mhm.
14.
okay, Willow,
13.
Can't have 15.
no, 13, she said.
13.
What did she say?
13,
13.
Oh, 13. Oh, okay.
Mary,
14.
14.
14,
Same thing.
okay. And nominee C,
14.
Willow,
14.
Mary,
14.
Sarah,
14.
I could abstain,
I
like 14. Okay. You know,
Now you know how she felt.
almost got tricked again this year. Remember last year, I didn't know until the very end, and I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh. Oh my.
Okay, so,
That was all 14.
Yeah, I think that adds up to 70.
okay, so what is your tally, Melanie, for the three,
So nominee A received 69 points total. Nominee B received 69 points and nominee C received 70.
Wow.
okay, so,
That's close.
so
So-
nominee A and B alphabetically, B would come first alphabetically. So my understanding, from the procedure that's listed here is she would be the nominee this year, and then nominee A would automatically be
Next year.
one of the, Wall of Honor recipients
Right,
next year.
right.
Okay. And,
And C is automatically,
yeah.
Mhm.
And in the past, what we've done is we've notified the honorees that they were selected as the honoree and that it was the date of the Friends Annual Meeting,
right,
and we provided that information. We haven't had to notify a person who would be the nominee for next year. Any thoughts on procedurally or
I would just leave it and say that next year when we do it, he automatically,
so no notification of that, so notify the two
because you tell
nominees for
somebody you
this
didn't make
year's.
it this year, but you made it last year,
Yeah.
next year.
So
Yeah.
we'll leave it at the two nominees who were
right.
selected this year are notified,
Right,
and next year,
automatic,
or A is automatically, and then whoever is the other one, and they both get
the
notified.
highest score for the next year, it
Yeah.
would be the second one for
Yeah.
next year.
Right, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, so,
So it's C and B.
yeah, and I will,
Congratulations.
thank you. And I will notify Mimi.
Yeah.
And, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the date for the Friends Annual Meeting.
The
But I'll
7th,
double check that too.
June 7th.
June 7th, okay.
I had lunch with her on Friday.
And would you like to?
I'd love
notify?
to.
Okay, fine. So then, Mary will notify Mimi. And, I'll notify.
Who's gonna notify you?
I'll notify myself.
Congratulations,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
well deserved.
Thank you.
Mhm.
B, under new business. This I had asked to have put on the agenda, not that we have to act on it today in any way. But, this is November 26th is the 10-year anniversary of the new library.
Yep.
So I put form and a 10-year anniversary committee. I don't know that that needs to be done today, but I at least wanted us to be thinking about it, to be aware of the fact that, something needs to be in place by next November. So do we want to put it on our calendar, let's say maybe 3 months before November? And, or 4 months before November?
I think maybe 6 months.
Yeah, I'm with Joanna.
Not that we have to talk about it every month necessarily,
No,
but I
no.
think we should start planning fairly early.
Okay, what I'll
We-
do then is
you-
on my planning calendar, 6 months before November. I'll put it in there, so then when we're doing an agenda prep meeting, and Melanie, you might, note it on your calendar. It will come up
What is
in
6
the
months?
appropriate month, so I
What's
can do
November?
months forward,
No,
not backwards, so.
Or you could put it on the June meeting.
July, June, probably June.
June, July, August, September, October,
Yeah, well-
it's May, June, July,
Oh, I
August,
see.
September,
Wait.
October, it's May.
April,
I
May.
feel one way, but not the other.
Okay.
Me too.
So if, right, we're ahead of it by a year, but yeah, you'd want it to be on the meeting after the election,
Okay,
right, when you're deciding the officers.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know that the officers forming, yeah, well, yeah, a new person might want to be on the committee. Yeah, so May.
Well, 6
June? Why don't
months
we
is
say
May.
June?
So June two thousand
Yeah,
twenty-six.
June will be sure that, all of the newly elected trustees will know that they've been elected.
Mhm.
And they will be starting their term in July. So
They should start it in June. The election will be in May and
Yeah.
their
they
first
can
meeting will
start
be
it
in June.
So
And
we
that's
put
when
it
we-
on the,
Officers are elected,
so what do we want it, May agenda or June agenda?
the June agenda.
Okay, and that, in all likelihood, is just gonna be. All right, 6 months from now is the 10-year anniversary. And who would like to, serve on that subcommittee, and we'll just set it up and go with it.
Unless, do you want a whole like longer period of time to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the library? Do you want there to be something during the summer when there's more people here? Type of thing.
Well, I think that when we talked about it at the recent, meeting that we had with Michelle and that type of stuff. We were talking, I brought up the fact that we have that, I won't call it a plaque, but the information of all the people that gave $1,000. Up outside the Turner Room. And we had a party when we had the night before we opened this library, we had a party inviting those people. To the celebration that we had that night.
Mm.
And, so, some of them aren't even alive anymore.
I guess I'm just asking, do we
Yeah.
want to use it as an opportunity to, I understand, and I definitely agree with having a party to commemorate the people who helped build the library.
Mhm.
Is there any interest, and there might not be because we're well-funded and things like that. Is there any interest in using it as kind of a, when you go, or
yeah,
the
yeah,
town of Eastham did it,
yeah.
celebrating 10 years of this library, maybe not, but that. And would we want that during the summer when more
Mhm.
people?
All right,
So
well,
that's all I'm
I
throwing
think
out
for
there.
today's discussion, if we want to do something during the summer, then June definitely isn't early enough.
Right,
So we.
Oh, to meet, to start
yeah.
meeting.
to start
yeah.
talking about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I agree with you.
So maybe if we sure.
Why don't you just put it on like the January, agenda, and then you can decide if you wanna do it in the summer or later.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah, I
Cause
think,
it might be like for the Windmill Weekend Parade, maybe
Yeah.
it's like 10 years
I was
of the
kinda thinking
new
that would be kinda cool.
library or.
Remember that.
Okay, I will make a notation. It will go, it will first show up on the January agenda.
Okay.
Okay? And
Well, it's good to think.
I
through
will do
these
that
things.
when I get home.
Okay.
Before I mess it up. Okay, I think we're done with that
Yes,
discussion for
thank you,
today. We
Al.
really can't do much more with it today. Okay, we have, the next item, on the agenda 9 is the financial report. And there we have the Biffy report is on page 20 in the packet. And that's pretty much the expenditures. Is Melanie, I didn't look at it carefully enough, it looks like the last expenditure noted there, if I'm not mistaken, looks like it's November 19th, 24. Did we expend? I think the only Biffy money we've expended since then, was it the piano repair, our share of the piano?
that is the piano.
Yeah. Hmm?
That is the piano. November 24 is the piano.
So we voted on it in November and we
Okay.
expended it in February.
Oh, okay, so that's it then. All right, I was thinking because we were talking about the piano more recently, and I just focused on the date. And I don't think there were any other items on that.
Nope.
So are there any other questions then on this Biffy worksheet? Mary?
First, I want to continue to comment on the second item at the top. And it says,
Reupholster the sofa?
yeah,
Okay,
no, Biffy funds were not used and are not included in the running balance.
okay,
The cost of that sofa, the 2005, was Biffy monies. But that came from the Winifred Franklin Fund and are not monies that went into the checking account or the savings account or anyplace else. So,
So see, it says 0.
yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the note, Biffy funds were not used. I just want to make sure that everybody remembers that Winifred Franklin funds are Biffy funds, but they're not, were never removed from the fund itself and put into any other checking or savings account.
Okay.
So,
so is it sufficient that the note is there so that every year when we review it, the first thing it said, talks about it being the Winifred
Winifred Franklin
Franklin.
Fund.
And then in the italics, the explanation that's there, is that sufficient? Or-
I just want to, if somebody looking at it might say, Biffy funds were not used, even though they were Biffy funds, but they're not from the monies that we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's why it's
That-
included
that's-
on the LBIFI
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
right, so I just wanted to comment on that.
Mm.
Then down below, let me see, on 11023, the userful, monies. There's just a word interest after that, I think the verbiage needs to be corrected.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
11023.
And then at the next, the Sinorama thing, that we don't have a motion noted on here. For the Sinorama, the 269.
That's the, I think the retroactive vote on August 20th, a few lines down.
Okay, oh, I see, okay. So should something. Well, I don't know how you wanna make sure that it's noted. And then at the bottom, you've got the actual bottom total expended. And you say the 57 plus current 72 equals opening balance 130. That's incorrect. The total balance is 120,670, 102. If you and if you add the 63 should be down where the current balance is, the 72.
Oh, yes, okay.
So the 63 needs to be where the 72 is, and that plus the 57 gives you our actual amount that that we started with, which is the 120,670,102.
Thank you, Mary.
Yep.
Okay. So you have all those?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. Right, the next one was the FY 25 operating budget.
So did anyone have any questions about the operating budget?
I think this is the one that typically there are times, some of the items, it looks like we've spent everything and others not everything, but it gets adjusted as we go along. So not a question, just an observation.
Well, it doesn't it doesn't get adjusted. I think what you
Yeah.
mean, Al, is
It
that
gets moved, yeah.
even though we might not, we might spend more than we have in one line item, it's the total expenses that we have to look at
Yeah,
to make sure that we don't go over the one
right.
sixty-six.
So with the building repairs, we were at 102%. There would just money would be moved from another line to compensate for that.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, the monies don't get moved. It's just that we don't spend that much on some of the other lines, so we end up in an okay
so that the
position.
bottom line
It's
comes
okay,
out to what it's supposed to come out.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, the FY 25 financial commitments.
Okay. So we have kind of two updates to this. So I think last time we spoke about the financial commitments, the funds for the Cape Cod Young Professionals training that I did hadn't been actually expended, but I did expend that. I got a lot out of that workshop. What are we calling it? The summit, leadership summit. It was every other week for January, February, and March. So if you're interested to hear more about what I got out of that, I'd be happy to chat with you about that. Other upcoming expenses, we have the Massachusetts Library Association Conference, May 19th and 20th, and I reached out to staff to see if anyone was interested in going. You know, a hectic time of year, and so the only others I was interested in going, and then Leah was also interested in going. So we don't have an active MLA membership. She was interested in going on Tuesday, and I was interested in going on Monday. It would be $295 for each of us to go. So I'm planning to register us for that, and that just kind of falls within the amount we've already committed to staff development. So
that's
just
great.
filling you, updating you all on the expenses there. And there are no other updates to the financial commitments here.
Where is that being held?
That's a great question. It's being held in North Falmouth this year.
Oh, terrific.
Yes, yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we done with FY 25 financial commitments?
I just have, can I ask a quick question? The strategic planning support budget, do you anticipate, that you'll need that money? You've only spent $656 so far.
No, I don't
It might not,
anticipate that we're
right.
gonna need, the full amount there. I
I was
just
just
wanted to,
curious.
have a budget,
Yeah.
I don't know, in case there were unknown expenses
Yeah.
that came up, but I did not anticipate spending, anywhere near the 5,000,
Okay.
so. And if anyone's interested in seeing the breakdown of, what we have expended for the 656, I do have that listed out. It just felt
Yeah.
superfluous for today's meeting, so.
That's good. Okay, and now we are up to the memorial accounts and restrictions.
Yes.
Any discussion on that?
I just wanted to note, because you'll see a few expenses here, and even though we talk about these things, it's, always good to remind ourselves what we've expended them on. So 2 updates with the state aid. We got our second annual payment for this fiscal year's state aid. So that was an income to the state aid account, but we did also expend about $3,000 to update some fixtures and furniture in the small conference room. So that's the expense there. If you go down to the Robert Billings account, there's an expense for $375 there. That is the assessment for the second quote that we got for the piano work. Yes. And then if you go down to the Campbell Memorial Fund, there's a $55 expense there. That's for the Cape Cod Genealogical Society dues. The Campbell Fund is one of those genealogy focused memorial fund, so I use that to pay those dues every year. And then the expenses in the trustees checking account are mostly for the piano expenses. And then the materials that we did for the strategic planning budget as well.
Okay.
Any questions about expenses or updates there?
I just like, there's one thing, when you have the total at the bottom at the end, the 34,
Yeah, is that wrong?
no,
Oh. Sorry. Sorry, Mary.
no, I just want people to know that it's not the total of that line, it's just the funds.
Mhm.
If anybody was to look at it and say the total, you have the
Mhm.
totals and you've got 34,
Mhm.
and that's the correct for just the funds, but obviously it doesn't include this trustee interest or checking
Mhm.
account or
Mhm.
et cetera, so I
Mhm.
don't know, somebody might look at it and say, how come we only have 34,000 total when we've got all the monies that obviously don't add up to 34?
Mhm.
I'll remember that,
Placement.
Melanie.
Okay, moving on to fiscal year 2026, the operating budget. This is going forward now.
And this is just a reference point. We talked about this a few months ago, but we are, all departments are being level funded. We did end up moving around some of the details in our expenses, so we were still able to increase the amount that we're planning to spend in our unclassified materials line. And any additional materials that we need to supplement to meet our budget requirements will be met by the Friends of the Eastham Library. I have our budget planning meeting. We'll be scheduling that probably the end of the month of April or beginning of May.
Any other questions or comments on this? And you go down to the very end of
No,
it. to
Joanna
level
has a
funding.
question.
Okay,
Sorry, just.
Go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
On the professional and technical,
Mhm.
the software licenses, the user full, just
Mhm.
curious why that dropped or.
Yes, we got a whole bunch of new equipment last year. And I had forgotten that we upgraded all of the hardware last year, so it was a bigger expense. The annual licensing fee is $1,600. So we replaced, I think, like all the monitors upstairs and the actual server downstairs.
Oh, okay.
So it was a bit more, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All righty, and the last item on the financial is memorial gifts, if any. I'm not aware of any at this point.
No,
We're accepting. We accepted the one, the town accepted
We
one last month.
did,
Yeah.
and actually, we should probably send a note to them. We didn't talk about that, but I'll talk to Willow about acknowledging the Buffington Memorial donation. Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah, thank you. Next item is the building review checklist, and that's on pages 26 and 27 in the packet. So Melanie, did you have anything to highlight? Do you have any leaks? Any place?
Yeah, I kind of was getting a little bit tired of putting, we think that the leak is done and it's not done over and over on the checklist. So I kind of stopped doing that last week. They came last week, so everything was looking really good. We didn't notice any new wet spots in, where we've always been seeing that coloration come through in that area by the valley near the circulation desk. We hadn't seen any new spots come through. When we had all that rain like last week and the week prior, which was good. And then, we've just continued to have rain, but as I said, we didn't see any more issues. So they came to continue to finish the punch list and they replaced the ceiling panels. And then a couple days later, I was like, there they are again. So they are equally as frustrated as we are. Well, maybe not, because we've been dealing with this for a lot longer than they have, but the project manager is really flummoxed and frustrated and really apologetic. They keep feeling like they're sure that they've gotten it. And then when, I'm grateful that we've had the rain for this reason, because it makes sure that, we're continuing to,
Working, yeah.
at least we know that the problem hasn't been solved and, you know, because the last thing that I want to happen is, you know, we think that it's solved and then we have to kind of reinvestigate, reopen this whole can of worms again. So they're working on things that are not being affected to continue to finish the punch list while continuing to investigate the affected area. And the project manager is keeping me updated. He's also been in touch with Scott, who is making sure that they get all of the different pieces of the punch list checked, because of course, with this first round of things, we had a lot of different areas that were affected. So we just want to make sure that everything gets repaired to the full extent that it is able. So I apologize. That's really not much of an update. We're sort of similar situation that we were. Yeah, as I have more information, I will continue to share
Okay.
that with you.
Nope, it's an update, at least we know the situation,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. We're becoming really, really close with the project manager and the main construction, you know,
Sure.
asking about their kids and grandkids.
Okay, thank you, Melanie, for that. Were there any other questions on the building, maintenance? I didn't have anybody else. Okay, are there any other updates that we need to be aware of? I just asked that. Is there any other business to come before us this afternoon? Yes,
I would like to revisit the Timothy Smith issue. I've done a little research. I've had some conversations with Jackie Beebe about the fund. The monies were originally given back in 1918, and the will said that $100 was to be given to the library. That's a given. And it's a given that we've never received it based on everybody's review of whatever they've been able to go back with. $100 back in 1918 is now worth, let me see, I wrote it down. $2,103.78. That was a lot. $100 back in 1918 was a lot of money. I really feel that if somebody had that type of money back then, they were very interested in the library and wanted to help the library. It wasn't something that was a small, it's not like giving 5 cents today or something like that. In talking with Jackie, it would be a very simple thing to move $100 once a year from the Timothy Smith Fund into our trustee interest account. She said, all it is take it out of that account, move it, put it into that account. It's not anything grand, any time consuming issue, any 9 people getting involved in talking about it or anything else. It's a very simple move this, click that and put it there. I would like to use those monies perhaps for a program of some sort. I've spoken to a couple of people here about what programs cost. And I think that it would be worthwhile to have that $100 and do something with it. He wanted those monies to come to the library. It's a simple, easy fix. And I think that we should be able to do something with it that would make sense, either a program or buy some books of historical issues or nature or whatever we decide to do with it. But I wanted to bring it up because we voted not to accept it, and I think that that was not something that he wanted. Obviously, it was a large amount of money for him at the time. And I would like to, as I say, revisit doing this simple calculation or simple fix or whatever you want to call it, simple move from one account to another. And use it appropriately to thank him for loving this library.
so if my understanding is correct. Let's say we did that, we would add that to the list of the memorial funds, and that would be $100 a year. And Jackie is saying that this isn't gonna be a big problem, that it can be done easily.
It's a simple thing.
Yeah, I think when we discussed it last time, we sort of something that was gonna be possibly cumbersome.
Well, we were talking about going back to the time,
Yeah,
and that would have been something little bit different than what what I'm recommending.
So was his original thing that we were from his
Will,
fund, from his will, we were supposed to get $100 a year?
right, that's correct.
So if just going forward, the town were to do the $100 a year
Mhm.
and then figure out a use for that particular line item?
Right, right.
Just a
Thoughts?
point of order, should we put this on an agenda item, as an agenda item, cause I'd like to see the Timothy Smith, what it says, the
Okay.
bequeath, you know, just
Okay.
for more information.
So would you like it on carry this over to the, next month's agenda? We
that's
can do
good.
that. Do we have the information from the will?
I've spoken to Jackie and Jackie said that she would send me the documents that they had. And I have not received them yet, but that was, I met her here at the library one Wednesday morning.
I mean, yeah, we'll put it on a future, my feeling is, I think when we were looking at it last time, it appeared to be a convoluted issue.
Mhm.
And, I think we didn't want to, the town does support us in so many ways, and we didn't want to make a big issue out of the $100 a year. But if Jackie is comfortable with, the town just transferring $100 a year to us,
Mhm.
you know,
So from one budget line to another budget line, that's a simple,
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. So what we could do is put it on next month's agenda and
Yeah.
revisit the Timothy Smith bequest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should have even taken a vote last time. We should put it on an agenda if we're gonna take a vote, I think. I mean, just to be procedural, you know?
yeah, we had one vote. I think we should have another vote if we're going to change it.
We'll-
What do people think of my thoughts?
I think given that it's, the way, you're characterizing, Jackie's feelings about it, that it's a simple fix.
Mhm.
I just didn't want it to become a big contentious issue over $100 with the town. Saying, gee, we were supposed to be getting this $100 and we haven't been getting it. And, it gets complicated.
Yeah.
If it's not a big deal. And it can be, that simple, that we just start getting the $100. We add it to the list, we get the $100. And we figure out what to do with the $100.
Mhm.
You
So
know,
we
I,
wouldn't be adding it to the
Yeah.
list. Mary was saying it would be transferred to the
Mhm.
trustees interest account.
Right,
So,
checking account.
Yes.
Yeah, checking account.
so, yeah, so we would get that money and. Now, or a question, if it's added to the trustees checking account. Okay. Are we gonna have a mechanism in place to remember that we've got $100 in the checking account each
Yeah.
year? And what are we gonna do with it?
so this is kind of what I was referring to is the challenge when we were discussing it last time is that it's, the retroactive thing is one thing. But Mary makes a good point, programs are expensive. But if, we're talking about an expensive program, then we're talking about well, I guess, we could sort of save up for, a bigger program, but we don't pay for programs out of library funds managed by the town because it's more complicated that way. We have to set them up as a vendor ahead of time. So if we're taking on these funds into the trustees checking account, we should consider how we're kind of planning to use it so that it's not like a thing that we're managing without actually having a plan for it. I think it's, all well and good to say, oh, theoretically it can buy books, it can buy whatever. But it just gets a little bit funky when you're buying $100 worth of books from one single account when we're buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth of books throughout the year. So if this is what the board wants to do, that makes sense. But I think that the board should be specific about how they want it to be used so that I have clear intentions and I can help support staff to make sure that it's expended in the way that makes sense and that we are tracking it and it doesn't just get lost in the shuffle.
Could it be forwarded to the friends?
I don't think that it would be appropriate
No.
for the town to cut a check to donate it to an affiliate nonprofit.
Oh, okay, never
yeah.
mind. Just so people know, I have a PT person coming at 6, so I'm gonna have to leave in 5 minutes. And Joanna, you may have to take the final notes for me if we're not done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think we'll be
done.
done
Yeah, I
because
think we're
we're
done.
gonna put it on the agenda for next month.
In
And
entirety.
possibly, Melanie, if you can give some thought as
Yeah,
to what you
I'll-
just
yep.
said as to how we're gonna actually figure out, tracking that money and how it's expended. So that it doesn't become cumbersome in that way. So we
Yeah.
know from Jackie, transferring the money to us isn't gonna be cumbersome.
Yeah.
She basically
Right, but
said it's
we
not.
need to make sure that Melanie talks about it from her perspective.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
that's what I mean, yeah.
What drove our conversation last time was based on Melanie's recommendation.
Right,
Okay,
thank
we
you.
set there?
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I don't have anything else on the agenda for today. Does anybody have anything that they would like to raise?
Yes, I'm upset about the monies that aren't coming from the federal government, and the LSTA grants are mute. We've used those monies for the walk and for an assortment of other things in this library, and I think something like 19 attorney generals have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration regarding what's happening as far as the federal monies and how it's affecting libraries is concerned, and I'm really upset about the way how it's going to affect monies that the libraries get.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Okay, they have a motion to adjourn. Have a motion,
Second,
second. Joanna,
Hi.
Willow?
Okay. But I didn't know who was the first person. I couldn't hear the first person.
Joanna, and then Sarah
Joanna.
second.
And I'm an I.
Okay, Mary?
Aye.
Sarah?
aye.
I'm an I, 5-0. We stand adjourned at 5:46 PM.
Great.
Nice.